Well, I think I'm right in saying that the Prime Minister at the time gave up science when he was 15.
This is Patrick Vallance, the Chief Scientific Advisor during the pandemic, giving evidence at the COVID inquiry. But why is he talking about Boris Johnson giving up science at 15? Well, to see why this statement is relevant, we need to see some entries from his notebooks he took during the pandemic.
You say, late afternoon meeting with the PM on schools. My God, this is complicated. Models will not provide the answer. PM is clearly bamboozled. PM asking whether we've overdone it on the lethality of this disease. He swings between optimism, pessimism, and then this. PM still confused on different types of test. He holds it in his head for a session, and then it goes. Watching PM get his head round stats is awful. He finds relative and absolute risk almost impossible to understand. PM struggled with whole concept of doubling times, just couldn't get it. Claire Gardner going through the talked PM through the graphs. It's difficult. He asked questions like, which line is the dark red one? Is he colourblind? Then, so you think positivity has gone up overnight? Oh, then, oh God, bloody hell. But it's all the same stuff he was shown 6 hours ago. Taken through the graphs, real struggle to get him to understand them. The message that we get from these repeated entries appears to describe something, at least as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, more serious, a repeated failure to understand graphs, scientific concepts and so on.
Now, it's probably easy to say Johnson didn't have the intellect to take the information in, but I think it was a greater problem. It's incredible that he rose to be Prime Minister because he's a narcissist, and a narcissist who cares about getting a fix of attention. As such, he's lazy when it comes to detail. I know people often label Johnson a narcissist, and the true impact of what that means can get lost. But as proved during the pandemic, when you put somebody in charge whose primary aim is to be the centre of attention, they will eschew responsibility and struggle to focus on the task in hand, because they're there for the wrong reason.
Forgetting things that had been explained to him only a few hours earlier, repeatedly.
Well, I think I'm right in saying that the Prime Minister at the time gave up science when he was 15. And I think he'd be the first to admit it wasn't his forte, and that he did struggle with some of the concepts, and we did need to repeat them often.
Which shows he shouldn't have been there. But again, he probably struggled because he's lazy and unfocused.
So I do not think that there was necessarily a unique inability to grasp some of these concepts with the Prime Minister at the time, but it was hard work sometimes to try and make sure that he had understood what a particular graph or piece of data was saying.
It's all about focus. Johnson hardly strikes you as somebody who studies studiously and takes matters seriously.
Mr. Johnson, it hardly needs saying, was the man who was making decisions that had incredibly broad impacts on the whole country. And it was critical, was it not, that he did understand the advice that he was being given?
Yes.
Click here for some more COVID inquiry.